Let's work together and find common ground.
We can work together.
We need to work together.
Let's work together.
Yeah, but look what happens when they do work together. The House just passing a $956 billion farm bill that's packed with pork, like $1 billion for something called the Cotton Income Protection Plan, $51 million for bioenergy, and get this, $3 million to promote Christmas trees. I'm not making this up. There's a lot more to this. So is it time to go back to the bickering and stop the spending? Hi, everybody. I'm David Aston. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus with Mr. Steve Forbes, Rich Karlgaard, Elizabeth McDonald, Mike Ozanian, Rick Unger, and John Tamny. So, John, why would we want them to do anything when this is what we get?
You know, it's a reminder that bipartisanship is the most overrated concept in politics today, and the family farm is easily politics' most sacred cow. Any time the two parties get together, we've always got to watch our wallets. In this case, it's an enormously expensive bill, and it violates the most basic concept in economics, which is comparative advantage.
Rick, cooperation usually means more spending. More spending means more pork, and that's not good for the economy.
Well, look, let's tear that apart a little bit. Nobody's going to disagree when it comes to pork. We all think intellectually, anyhow, it's a terrible, terrible thing to do, and it should not be what drives legislation. What fascinates me, however, if you look back over our legislative history, well beyond our recent years, it has always been pork. It has always been earmarks that are used to get agreements. Why would this one be any different? Now, so the question that maybe you have to ask is, why do these politicians require this kind of extra benefit before they'll vote the way they should? And if they're going to do it anyhow, maybe we should bring earmarks back, because at least we get things done when we have them.
All right, Rick, I love you, but I like my question better. EMAC, why do we need cooperation when this is the junk that we get when we have cooperation?
Yeah, exactly. They're buying votes with their money. They're being big shots with their money. And by the way, why do we need a Christmas tree tax to promote Christmas trees when we already have nativity scenes? We have nativity scenes to promote promote Christmas trees. So, you know, what we're seeing is money for citrus research, for big ag farmers. And I'll tell you something. We already have the Energy Department throwing pork around, climate change pork for things like Solyndra, which is really putting green lipstick on a pig. And we also have the highway bill already loaded with pork, right, bridge to pork. And so that we already have those bills with pork in them. I don't see the only way we can get partisanship is through pork. Is a sad state for our country.
And Steve, we were going in the right direction. We had the sequester, which all the politicians said was terrible. We had the partial government shutdown, which all the politicians said was terrible. But government spending went down. And guess what? The economy did better in the second half of 2013, exactly when all these supposedly disasters were kicking in. That was when the economy did great.
Yeah, that's true, David. Government sucks resources out of the economy. They don't create resources. They take them from we, the people. This farm bill is really Animal House in a pigsty, and the American people are getting the stench from it. And apropos of Rick's point, I don't mind using pork to get something like a flat tax through, or cuts in other spending through, or reform of Social Security, but they got nothing from this. This was just pure pork.
Pork is good when it's something you like.
Mike Ozanian, again, the fact is the private sector does better, it seems, at least it did in 2013, when the public sector did worse, when the public sector spent less.
That's right. Right now, David, fixed net private investment, excluding households, is running at 2% of GDP. The post-World War II average is 4%. So we have to be more concerned than ever about all this extra pork, because government spending as a percent of GDP is higher than its post-World War II norm. And as Steve pointed out, that's sucking resources out of the private sector, which actually creates the jobs and the tax revenues to fund the government.
And, Rich, we're always hearing from the liberals out there that, in fact, we need government spending to help the economy. Well, we don't. Apparently, government spending doesn't help the economy.
Not only does it not help the economy, it creates bad multiplier effects, negative multiplier effects.
Explain that for us.
Well, we have to pay Brazil $147 million a year as a penalty because we violate some free trade thing, because we subsidize our own cotton industry. So we're not only paying to subsidize rich cotton farmers, but we're also paying penalties for doing this.
Right. And John, this is just the way it happens. I mean, there's no other way they know how to do business down there, is there?
No, and it's got to be remembered, Steve and Mike pointed this out, government only can grow at the expense of the private sector. And, you know, after that, we buy TVs from Japan, we buy bananas from Guatemala, we buy shoes from Italy. Farm products are no different. If the family farm disappears in the U.S. tomorrow, we will still consume farm products in abundance. The only difference is we'll get it from foreign producers, and we won't have to subsidize the farmers here.
And Rick, I agree with you. It has always been thus. I agree with you 100% on that. But isn't that the perfect reason why we need to dramatically reduce government spending? Because they'll always spend it the wrong ways.
Well, but you see, here's the problem, and Steve kind of really laid it right out there. He said if it's for a flat tax or something else that he thinks is good for us, no problem using pork. Well, I could make the same arguments for legislation I might like that he would dislike. This becomes an intellectually dishonest argument.
Well,
you either use it or you don't use it.
Steve?
Now, in terms of getting some big things through, sometimes you have to grease the skid, so to speak. But
well,
this is just pure pork. There is nothing attached to it that did any good.
Well, there was.
And the idea of a family farm, they got the least out of this, the small farmers. 33% of the benefits go to the top 4% of the farmers. It's the rich getting richer. It's everything the Marxists accuse Republicans of. Big government's guilty of it.
It's more than just not doing any good. It's doing harm, is it not? Because it's affecting the way we do business. It's negatively affecting the private sector.
Yeah, it is negatively affecting the private sector. And, you know, I'll tell you something. What would be great is if we had true bipartisanship where you had LBJ-style grunt work to get true consensus on bills that will help the small businesses without all these guys playing big shot with our taxpayer money.
And, Mike, remember, we still do have a debt here. I mean, with these low interest rates, you might not know it because it makes it cheap for government to pay off its debts with a low interest. That's one reason the Fed has been cooperating with them. But we still have a debt, and this is just adding to it.
Right, and it's going to be the middle class, David, that pays for it, not only in terms of taxes, but also higher prices for food. I mean, don't forget, while overall inflation has been trending very low, food prices have not, and other things that go off of, like, say, ethanol, which comes from corn, like gasoline prices, those prices are high as well. So the middle class gets killed by this.
And Rich, ag incomes are at a record level, while middle-income family median incomes are going down.
And Rich, you have mentioned many times the fact that that government spending very often has a negative effect. Government spending will help those people that don't need help from the government and hurt the people who are fine on their own.
Well, sure, in the 1930s, when we started thinking about this, a much larger percentage of people were working on farms, and they were truly small farmers and poor and middle-class farmers. And now 1% of the population works on farms, and it's a big, giant business. But this negative consequence, it's not only that it hurts the economy, it hurts society. Right. Look, we've got an obesity problem leading to a diabetes problem, and we subsidize sugar. Yeah. It's just absolutely insane. It's insane that we subsidize ethanol, which is environmentally disastrous.
And by the way, Rich is a farm boy from Minnesota, so he knows whereof he speaks.
North Dakota.
North Dakota, even more so. All right. Thank you very much, gang. Coming